Karl-Hajnc Rumenigea. Za mnoge fudbalska ikona i legende igre koja može biti opisana, iako izlizanom frazom i dalje tačnom, najvažnija sporedna stvar na svetu. Danas 68-godišnji Nemac nakon bogate igračke, ali i karijere u kojoj je bio funkcioner Münchenskog Bayerna, dobio je priliku da postane ambasador sportskih igara mladih. Tim povodom Rumenigea je boravio u Beogradu, a tokom vremena provedenog u glavnom gradu Srbije bio je otvoren za razgovor za televiziju Arena Sport. Mr. Rumenigea, willkommen in Belgrade.
Vielen Dank.
First of all, I would like to ask you a simple question. How are you?
Fine.
Yeah, really?
Feeling good. Now a bit tired because I waked up very early in the morning to come here to Belgrade. But the day was fantastic, thanks to my Serbian friends, and I'm very happy to receive this award as ambassador. And so I'm happy. Good.
Tell me about your day. One day in the life of Karl-Hajnc Rumenigea. I heard that
Different.
you like to ride a bike a lot.
Yeah, I ride a bike a lot, 4 or 5 times a week. Then to keep in form physically, I do a lot of gymnastics, and so of course different because I'm now 68 years old and when I played football, life was at its best probably, and then I had a second career with Bayern in the management, which was nice as well, but I'm looking fine.
And I know I read one interview where you spoke about your grandchildren and the time with them. Are you playing football with them?
Yeah, I'm 8 times grandpa now, and I spend, if I have time, I spend some time with them together, and especially since the Corona time, when in Germany we had lockdown, it wasn't prohibited to play football in a team or whatever, and very often when I came home from my office, I went to them to play football, to coach them a bit, to have training session, to play football just, and to entertain them a bit.
Are they good?
They're good, but I don't know if this good means to have a career as professional player. Maybe it's very difficult. I saw that by the son of Franz Beckenbauer. He was a really good player, professional player in 2 teams in Germany in the Bundesliga, and unfortunately, for what reason ever, sometimes he was heavily criticized, and the stress he could feel, and it was not very good for him.
I have some questions about late Franz, but I would like to ask you, do you tell anything about your professional career in football to your grandchildren?
Not everything, but I'm waiting if they ask me something. Of course, they know a bit that I played football at a very high level. I played 15 years as a professional, 10 years in Bayern, and then in Inter and Geneva at the end. But I believe football is a game, and the game should be done with pleasure, and so I try to transfer this pleasure to them as well. They have to play football because it's a pleasure, not because dreaming about being a professional.
Can you remember when you fall in love with football?
I believe everybody who is playing today or 20 or 30 years ago in professional football, we played football because it's a game, and a game should be doing pleasure. And then when I was 17 years old, I got an offer by surprise from Bayern. Bayern was the first team who gave me an offer to follow them, and then in the next 7 days I had 17 offers on the table from 17 different Bundesliga clubs. But I decided to Bayern, and fortunately that was the right decision, because still today I live in Munich because I feel well with my family, and then the career in Bayern was fantastic. I was fortunately or lucky to win everything what can you win in a club, and I played 95 caps for the national team, unfortunately losing twice the finals in the World Cup, but however That's happened in football.
When Bayern Munich called you for the first time, what was going on through your mind?
Telling you the truth, many of my friends, many of my colleagues were, at that time I worked in a bank, said to me, don't go because you have no chance to play for Bayern Munich.
But did you see your chance?
No, I was very nervous, telling you the truth, to find the right decision. But I had a good youth coach, and I had a discussion with him, and I said that I'm a bit nervous and not decided by the decision what to do. And he said to me, I never will forget, he used the wording, if you get an offer from Bayern, you go to Bayern. Very often in the past when I was CEO of Bayern and we had young players, and always everybody very often was skeptic to play in Bayern. I said the same story, and very often they said, okay, we do it.
How could you describe Bayern Munich in one word?
Fantastic.
And you remember the games against Red Star?
Yeah.
This is not your first time in Belgrade, if I'm right?
No, I had the first game I was in Belgrade was, I believe, with the national team in 1977. I believe we won.
With Yugoslavia.
I was not. I didn't play. I believe I was not used in the lineup, and so I was on the bench. But at that time, former Yugoslavia was between the three best teams in the world. They had fantastic players who could play in every big club, in every great club in Europe. And the first time that I came here was, I believe, we played the UEFA Cup against Red Star. We won in Munich with 1 goal difference. And then we had the second leg here in Belgrade, and in the halftime we was practically out, losing 1-0. Then they scored the second, the third. So we was 3-0 down, and it was done. And then I don't know if they was tired at the end of the game, because I remember it was a very rainy day here in Belgrade, and the pitch was in very bad conditions. And the third goal was probably a nightmare for Red Star, because it came across, and the defender would defend the ball, and he was not able to do so, and because the ball stopped in the match, and Dieter Höhne scored the second goal, and that was our winner.
Could you remember the atmosphere at the stadium?
The atmosphere was incredible.
Could you compare with Munich or Bundesliga?
I would say better than in Munich, more hot. So you could feel the atmosphere on the pitch, because I remember when we came on the pitch, it was, you felt that the fans, supporters of Red Star was really supporting the team at its best.
You spoke about late Franz Beckenbauer, and this week Mr. Anders Brehm passed away. So I would like to ask you, I know that it's a hard topic, hard to say anything about this, but when someone mentioned Franz Beckenbauer, how you feel?
So I had practically 50 years together with him. I arrived in the age of 18. Then he was my captain in the team of Bayern. Then later on he was the coach of the national team. I was his captain and he was my coach. Then always later and later he was the president of Bayern and I was his vice president, and then he gave me the pleasure and the power to do CEO of the Bayern Munich company. So we lived the whole life, 50 years together, and I remember we knew that unfortunately he wasn't in good conditions physically, but when I got the message, it was a shock.
First impression, when I ask you something, what did you learn from Franz? What was the most important lesson from him?
Being respectful and friendly to people. So he was, everybody knows the footballer Franz Beckenbauer, who was perfect, and he interpreted the role of libero in a new way. But he always was respectful and friendly to people, and that we learned all, not me alone. And that was something which is very important till today, being respectful and friendly to people, because showing them the respect, and in that he was fantastic.
I heard that he was always in a good shape, so can you remember some things from the trainings?
Yeah, very often we played, we called it at that time old dogs against young dogs. And he was 10 years older, so he played for the old dogs. Gerd Müller, Sepp Maier, Franz, and these guys played against the youngs. And very often we was winning for what reason ever. And we had a coach at that time was Udo Lattek. He was stressed to play sometimes 2.5 hours till the old dogs won.
The period in Italy was bad or not? Was bad or not?
No, it was good.
I know that there were
it was
a lot
good.
of injuries,
it was
yeah?
good times because, of course, there was always pressure and stress in football at that times as well. But I had the feeling that the spirit and the pleasure in football was higher than today.
And after this, if I'm right, Geneva for 2 seasons.
That was at the end of my career. I had been before 3 years in Inter. Unfortunately, at the last 2 months of my contract in Inter, I've broken my Achilles, and that went me out for something like 6 months. And at that time, don't forget, there was permit just 2 foreigners per club, per team. And my coach in the last year in Inter was Trapattoni, and of course, he had to decide something what at the beginning it was not easy to accept, because I felt very good in Inter, was a good club, and we had a good atmosphere, good team, everything was fine. I had to leave, which was not easy at that time, but I understood.
When did you figure it out that time is up, that you need to retire, to step down from professional career?
Curiously, in my last year of the career, I was still very fit. I was top scorer of the Swiss league, and I was number 3 in the European total competition, scoring something like 35 goals, which was not bad at that time. But it was here. So I began to discuss with the coach about some things, and I felt I have to be honest to myself, to say it's a good moment, to say thank you very much, goodbye, wish you all the best.
And after all those years, was this the good moment for this?
Seeing that from today, yes, it was the right moment, but I remember when I went, so I played the last game, we had a home game in the Geneva Stadium, and I was relatively cool prior to the game, knowing that it's my last game, and then I went under the shower, and under the shower it was a very emotional moment for me, and something cries came out.
Do you have hardest game in your career?
Hardest?
Yeah.
Hardest game was probably against Italy in the final '82, because we was completely tired after our semi-final against France. We had to play 120 minutes. The game finished, I believe, at 1 a.m. in the morning. Then we went to the airport. Our plane was unfortunately not able to fly immediately, so we had to wait 5 hours, and we came, I believe, at 8 in the morning. We arrived in Madrid at the airport, and the preparation for the game, for the final, was nearly impossible for the coach to prepare us to be not tired. We was completely tired, and the Italians was fresh, and I always had the philosophy, if you lose a game because the other team, the opponent, is better, you have to accept. So Italy deserved to win.
What was the most important thing in your career?
Having pleasure. So it's the greatest emotion you can have in football. If you play at home or independent abroad for 80,000, 100,000. I had the pleasure to play in Rio one time, 160,000 people scoring a goal. And then you feel this emotion, which is like an explosion. This was always fantastic. Scoring a goal and...
Is this the best thing in football, in sport generally?
Being happy. Being happy, doing sport with pleasure and being happy.
What can we expect in the future? I'm talking about Euros football.
So we have the pleasure to organize the next Euro in summer. And what is our goal in Germany is to have to organize a perfect tournament, because Germany is famous, I would say, for organization, good organization. But as well, we want to try to organize a tournament which is similar, the organization from 2006 World Cup, where Germany was, which was not always the case, sympathetic to the whole world. We had nice weather, which is, of course, especially in summertime, not every day the case, but so people had a good impression about Germany, and so I hope that we can be similar, and that our team is maybe pushing a bit the atmosphere and heating the atmosphere of the crowd.
I have two more topics. First one is your period as Vice President and CEO of Bayern Munich. So how could you rate those years?
The first, as Vice President, was very important to have experience. So at that time Franz was President, and then we had a good team at that time. Uli Hoeneß was Managing Director, Franz President, and then we had a good finance guy, Karl-Hajnc. So we was a good team, very loyal, very harmonious, and doing well after a period where Bayern didn't do well. And we were successful. But for myself, I had time to develop, I had time to build up my network, and that was very helpful then after as CEO.
Are you satisfied?
I hope I can so, because if you see satisfaction in winning titles, I can be satisfied very, because I believe never had been happened in life that somebody won. I won in a total something like 15, 18 German Bundesliga titles, many German cups, 4 times the Champions League. So what will you do more? And Bayern was a role example, which I believe was very important for myself, a role model in financial matters, because we don't have an oligarch or an American billionaire who cares at the end of the season about the financials. We had to refinance ourselves, and I believe that was sometimes, or the most of the time, quite good.
You said a lot of things, but I would like to ask you, what was the greatest challenge in this period? Maybe period with coronavirus or something else?
Corona was bad, but for myself, I would say, as a player, my talent was given me when I was born, practically. And I had to work hard, of course, to be a professional player. But as in the management, I had to build up, to work out everything alone. That was much more difficult than being a professional player.
Now you have some new role in your life. You're the ambassador of Sport Youth Games. Is this the privilege to you? How could you see this situation?
Yeah, I try to support, to help people doing fantastic things, and I believe this event today, I had the pleasure to be nominated as ambassador of these. It's a pleasure for myself, and I try to support these people, and the marriage family is doing well in this. They did a great job in the past 27 years, and the outcome we could see, or I could see today, and I just can give them a big hand.
Everyone knows that children is the most important thing, not just in sport, in life, yeah? But nowadays there is technology. Is this the problem for sport, and how you could see this?
I would say it's a problem. It's different times. So when I was a kid, or as well when I was professional player, so there was no mobile phone, no computer, no social media and whatever. It's a different life today. Sometimes I don't want to change with them.
You saw a lot of kids here in Belgrade, so do you have some advice for them?
So why we play, and why we play football as well? Because it's a pleasure. It's a game. And the game has to be done with pleasure. So very often we forget why we playing a game. Pleasure, just enjoy.
Mr. Rumenigea, dankeschön.
Bitte sehr.